All right, next up on the list, Flanks of Gettysburg. It's another Compass title. This was one, I think I actually kickstarted it, which is a dicey proposition when talking about Compass games. And this one was no exception. While the last game that I looked at, the 1812 War on the Great Lakes Frontier, was an A-plus production in terms of rules quality and component quality. This is more standard Compass fare, which was undercooked rules that clearly weren't edited, and some messed up components. And you can see here, using the living rules, which, to Compass's credit, they realized that the game had real problems. The rules as published had real problems, and worked quickly to get a living rules book released that has, the blue text. And I didn't even read the actual published rules that came with the game. The comments right out of the gate were that it was unplayable with the rules as written. So I just waited. So I'm not even sure if the blue text in here is the only thing that was different, because the blue text is mainly just notes and examples of play. And it's hard to believe that would be the only thing that was wrong with it, if it was really unplayable. I will say there were no changes clearly made to the historical background here. And, there wouldn't need to be. That doesn't have anything to do with gameplay. But what it does show is just how poorly edited or not edited at all the rules were, as this historical info here at the beginning of the game is so poorly written that it's hard to believe it was published in in rules like this. It is just the full of grammatical errors, run-on sentences, and typos that it's almost unreadable, which is just crazy to me that somebody would publish that in a modern war game. This is a niche hobby. These are small productions by just handfuls of people. I get that, but you could run it through. It's not that stuff was misspelled. They must have spell checked it, but there's tools you can use that also help you with grammar and would I hope identify a run-on sentence and so forth, and clearly that wasn't used. So it was almost just didn't even make any sense what I was reading in there. So that was certainly not a good way to start the rules off. But otherwise, the living rules seem fine to me. There are plenty of examples. They made sense. What I was most surprised by is how light the game is. It's actually just fairly light, kind of buckets of dice. You are rolling one die for every strength point of units that are firing. So you got, and the max you can stack together is 4 points. So most of these are, a stack of two strength point units, two strength point units, and you're rolling 4 dice for that. And then if the most hits you can inflict are 2 hits. So you're rolling 4 dice. If you shoot 4 points, then the opponents, and you hit twice, then each unit is rolling 2 dice to check their morale. So, it's pretty simple. It's like to like. Hits equals number of morale rolls you have to make. And so, which means that there can be lots of chances to, if you've got 2 units of strength 2 shooting at 1 unit, and, you can get lots of hits in there, or lots of chances to hit in there, and then eliminate that. If you get 2 hits, that's an eliminated unit right there. So one thing I've learned after the first turn, and I've actually played 2 turns of Culp's Hill, just about to start the 8:30 turn. But one thing I've learned is that, yeah, it's if you got one unit by itself, and you've got 2 units shooting at that one unit, you've got a good chance of that unit getting eliminated, because you could easily get 2 hits on 4 dice and fail both of those morale rolls on the 2 hits, and you've got a broken unit on your hands. But the game does offer plenty of opportunities to rally those units through either the movement of your HQ unit, which each side has an HQ unit, and can potentially add more if you use divisional rules. There are divisional commander rules. There are some optional rules that you can use in the game to make it a little more complicated. You've got things like the LOS is very simple in the game, but you can do like blocked LOS, which basically says you can't fire over the crests of hills. So, that doesn't seem to make much difference when you're on the forward-facing slope like this. But presumably, if they go over the crest of the hill, and this may be a bigger deal on the Little Round Top map. I haven't played Little Round Top yet. I've started with Culp's Hill. But, people wouldn't be able to shoot across the crest of the hill. So, mild addition of complexity. Most line of sight rules are way more complex than that. But at the company scale, I think they figured, it doesn't need to be quite so detailed because you're dealing with largely close quarters fighting. So, your range and stuff like that in terms of hexes is not going to be huge. So it makes sense that the line of sight rules would be fairly simple, even if you're using the optional blocked LOS thing. You've got also this Unbridled Fury optional rule, which is basically that unless your guys have an officer with them and they melee and succeed, they're going to keep going. If they have an officer with them, the officer can try and stop them from going, which makes sense. You've got extreme range, where you can go a little further than the normal range of, I think, 5 hexes. You can go up to 7 hexes or 6 through woods, but you have a much lower chance of hitting. And then here you can have different variations in officer wounding. Say instead of just the officers automatically being wounded, if you roll a natural 10 on volley fire, this adds more nuance by saying, okay, he might be wounded if that happens, instead of automatically being wounded. You got some rules for dummy units in there, which, I'm playing solo, so I'm not going to use those. Then you've got the divisional officers that you can add, which I already mentioned. And then some variable historically variable stuff, like the 71st Pennsylvania and Culp's Hill, early demoralization, Union flexibility, some different historical variants and stuff, which I'm not actually using those. I am using the 71st Pennsylvania, but not using the variable entry options. So just keeping it simple, but it moves pretty quickly, is fairly light. You're just rolling lots of dice. So far, I have pushed the Union up a little bit. You can see these here is the sort of historical defensive works. So the line of defensive works across Culp's Hill that the Union defended initially. I've got some of them along that line, but then pushed them forward a little bit because these are victory point hexes here. And I didn't want to be defending right on the victory hexes, or in this case, they would have been behind the victory point hex. So I decided, after setting them up along that historical line, I actually pushed them forward a little bit. We'll see if that hurts things, because it would give these guys a better defensive DRM to be behind those works. So, because right now you can see the number of shaken guys along here. They got kind of shot up pretty badly, more so than they were able to do to the Confederates. And to be fair, there are more Confederates than there are Union troops here. And everybody currently is shooting at a -1 in most cases, because it's 3 hexes away through rough terrain, which is a -1 DRM. For the most part, the Confederates got the better of that fire again, because there's more of them. But then they also were able to rally their depleted troops a little bit better. They rolled better on their rally rolls than the Union did, so that also helped them. I have started out fairly conservatively, at least with the Confederates. Most of them probably could have moved up within that 2 hex range. I didn't want to trigger op fire, so you can see they're all at least 3 hexes away, because if you move within 2 hexes, that triggers opportunity fire. And I didn't want the Confederate line to get shot to pieces before I had really closed to within melee range. I think I'll probably do another volley round. I may try to advance on the Union flank here, or to turn the Union flank more, because on the 8:30 turn, which is I'm about to start, the Confederates get to add an extra command chit into the Culp. This is a chit draw system. They can add a second chit for one of these regiments into the Culp. So I added the second chit for the 10th Virginia over here on the flank, so they'll have 2 activations that they can do this turn, which hopefully will loosen up the Union flank there, and they can try and push ahead that way. The Union does have reinforcements. They've got the 6th Wisconsin coming on, and they've had the 147th and 84th New York come on, but those only have 2 companies each. The 6th Wisconsin has more than that. As you can see, they've got 4 companies. And then still to come are the 61st Ohio and the 157th New York. And the 61st Ohio, you can see, has 6 companies. So that'll be some welcome reinforcements. Plus they've got the 71st Pennsylvania, although they're variable in what they can end up doing. They can end up leaving like they did historically, sort of like an unannounced departure. So we'll see what happens there. But again, I could have probably run up with the Confederates and gotten right into melee, so I don't know how the melee works yet. Haven't explored that. I've just been doing fire combat or volley fire. We will see probably this next turn. I will probably try melee at a weaker point in the Union line where there's a gap there where they eliminated one of the units or broke one of the companies. So might give that a try and see how melee plays out. Again, so far, the rules rewritten, potentially, or at least reorganized or something, whatever Compass did for the living rules, and adding in all the examples and clarifications and stuff, have made the game so far. I haven't had any problems executing any of the rules. The player aids are all clear. You can see I've made some corrections. Additionally, the counters had some problems. So these counters, these command chits, are supposed to have M on one side and V on the other, indicating whether you're going to move the regiment that turn or whether you're going to volley fire. And some of these were misprinted with M's on the back. So I actually, somewhere in here, for those, and I need to correct those too. Those are the second ones. But you can see I just scribbled a V on there over the M to make it clear that, one side's the volley side. So you don't have to deface your counters. You could also just use fired tokens. That's what the errata recommended doing. But, just kind of typical, the organization of the stuff, the fonts and everything, just look considerably less polished. Same thing, the rule book, looks like something somebody created on their own at home in terms of fonts and organization and stuff like that. So it is just kind of night and day, the production quality of this versus the production quality of 1812. So it goes to show, they're both published by Compass. It just goes to show the difference that a developer or development team and playtesting team makes when it comes to war games. And this, I think this had a couple different developers. Well, the first developer had to bow out, and then the second one, may not have been experienced with development, or the game wasn't play tested well enough for the rules, for people to look at the rules as written originally and realize that they were unplayable. I will say the map is gorgeous. It is a Rick Barber map. And, I've done videos on Rick Barber's maps, particularly his Gettysburg maps. This would have been added to that video had the game been out at the time that I did those videos a couple of years ago. But Rick Barber he passed away last year or maybe 2 years ago now. So, I think he's greatly missed in the war game map community. Other people may disagree who find his maps to be too, like illustrative looking, I guess, or they definitely have a hand-drawn quality to them, a hand-colored quality. Some people like that, other people don't. I think his maps are great. They're very evocative, very textured, very detailed, and very accurate. The guy was a Gettysburg fanatic, certainly one of the authorities on Gettysburg maps for wargaming. So I happen to really like his maps. So I'm fine playing them. It is on like a heavier sort of cardstock rather than just paper. So I didn't even put Plexi on there, although to be honest, if it was paper, it would be a little less poochy. It is pretty poochy with the heavier stock, but if they're going to make it out of heavier stock, then I'm going to play on it. I rarely use Plexi anymore. I've sort of taken a note of a page from Callendale's book. He doesn't like plexiglass either. I tend to not like it just because it's, I don't know, a pain in the ass to get out and keep straight. I probably would use it if I was playing games opposed, just to sort of keep the map more in place. But when I'm just playing stuff solo, it's easier just to throw a map on the table and start playing and not worry about sizing some Plexi to fit for it. So, and plus with my, I've got spotlights in here, and the spotlights throw a lot of glare down on the plexiglass. So I find it's generally better for in terms of seeing things to to not have to deal with the glare that Plexi causes. So anyway, a few turns into flanks of Gettysburg, enjoying it so far. Again, very light treatment. I mean, really, there's not, it's not an ASL level, certainly it's not even an ASL, like a ASL starter set level of detail. I mean, it is literally the companies can all move 10 movement points, or they can shoot. And the shooting is just rolling a handful of dice based on the strength points. There's no variable die rolls for weapons. There's no weapon-related DRMs. The only DRMs are for the terrain and the distance. Facing rules are simple. The three forward hexes are forward, and the three rear are rear. And if they get, they can get flanked and stuff like that. That adds more DRMs to melee. The defensive fortifications provide negative DRMs to fire combat. You can dig or build fortifications like most tactical level games. So, some simple fortification rules in there, some simple morale rules, the rally rules. It's all very, it's all very simple. I mean, the rules, again, they're not long. It's 20 pages of rules, and 4 pages of those are basically optional rules and designer notes. And then the first 2 pages are historical notes. And then, you know, it's a glossary of terms and 4 pages after that. So very light rules and very simple so far. So we'll see how it goes, and I'll come back after this one ends with a wrap up. I don't know if I'll do video in Little Round Top or not, because there may not be, again, it's such a light game, there may not be much to say on the system itself after I finish Culp's Hill. So we'll see.